There is something peculiar about guardians, something that separates them from adventurers, from heroes, from the travelers who pass through worlds seeking glory or treasure or answers. Guardians do not pass through. They remain. They watch. They wait. And in the Mushroom Kingdom, there exists a people who have perfected this ancient art of watchfulness to such a degree that one must wonder if they ever truly rest at all. Tonight, we drift into the story of Toad. Not just the individual with the red spotted cap and cheerful voice, but the entire species of mushroom people who populate a kingdom of wonders. We'll explore a mystery that has lingered at the edges of our awareness for nearly 4 decades. A secret hidden in plain sight, whispered in the spaces between game levels, hinted at in the exhausted smiles of those who greet us at journey's end. The secret is this: the toads may never sleep. Think about it for a moment. In all your adventures through the Mushroom Kingdom, in all the castles you've stormed and all the worlds you've explored, when have you ever found a toad asleep? Not the yellow toad of the Brigade, who despite his reputation for laziness, is often simply resting his eyes while remaining alert to danger. No, I mean truly, deeply asleep, unconscious to the world, vulnerable, at peace. The answer, most likely, is never. Or if you have, it was so rare, so exceptional, that it stands out as an anomaly in your memory. The toads are always there, always ready, always watching with those wide, dark eyes that reflect something ancient and knowing. When Bowser attacks the Mushroom Kingdom for the 100th time, who sounds the alarm? When Princess Peach is kidnapped once again, who delivers the news to Mario? When you need an item, a hint, a moment of encouragement in your darkest hour, who appears with exactly what you need? The toads. Always the toads. And they do so without complaint, without hesitation, without any sign that they've been standing at that very spot for who knows how long, waiting for you to arrive. This is the gift, and perhaps the curse of the mushroom people. This eternal vigil, this constant state of readiness. And tonight, as you settle into rest, we'll explore what it means to be a people who seemingly never do the same. We'll trace their history from the very beginning, examine their mysterious biology, witness their heroism and their fear, and perhaps come to understand why these small, mushroom-capped beings have become the beating heart of the Mushroom Kingdom, the tireless watchers, the eternal helpers, the people who never sleep. Born of earth and shadow. Our story begins in 1985, a kingdom in peril, a princess stolen away, and a people transformed by dark magic into the very bricks and blocks that make up the world you must traverse to save them. This is the origin of the toads as we know them, not heroes, not warriors, but victims who would become symbols of endurance. In the original Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Mushroom Kingdom existed as a land of peace before Bowser, the king of the Koopas, arrived with his minions and his terrible magic. The instruction manual tells us that he used his powers to transform the peaceful mushroom people into mere objects, scattered and inanimate across 8 worlds of increasing danger. Bricks, horsetail plants, blocks that you break open to find coins or power-ups, each one potentially a transformed toad, frozen in silence, waiting for salvation that might never come. But not all of them were changed. 7 remained in their original forms, the Mushroom Retainers, as they were called in those early days. 7 servants of Princess Toadstool, as Peach was then known, who were captured and imprisoned in Bowser's castles across the land. In the Japanese instruction manual, it's clear. They were merely kidnapped, held hostage to lure the princess into danger. But in the English version, there was confusion. Were they under the spell as well? Were they changed in some fundamental way? The details shift like smoke, depending on which account you trust. What matters is this. When Mario finally reaches the end of each of the first 7 worlds, when he defeats the false Bowser guarding each castle and claims victory, he encounters one of these mushroom retainers, and each time, without fail, they deliver the same message, the same heart-sinking truth that has become one of gaming's most famous phrases. "Thank you, Mario, but our princess is in another castle." Imagine it. You've just fought through an entire world, dodged Goombas and Koopa Troopas, leaped over bottomless pits, navigated underwater labyrinths, or navigated fiery obstacle courses. You've finally reached what you believe is the end. Victory, salvation. The princess awaits. But instead, you find only a toad, alone in a vast castle, delivering news of continued captivity. The princess is somewhere else. Your journey is not over. You must go on. And yet, despite this crushing news, the toad delivers it with what can only be described as patience. Not despair, not anger at Bowser or frustration at the situation. Just a simple statement of fact, followed by gratitude for your efforts. Thank you for trying. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for being here. Even though the battle continues, even though more struggles lie ahead, the toad takes this moment to acknowledge your heroism. This is the first hint of what would become the defining characteristic of the species: tireless, patient, unwavering support, no matter how dark the circumstances. In Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, the Japanese sequel that would later come to the West as part of Super Mario All-Stars, the pattern continues. More mushroom retainers appear. More castles hold the same message. The repetition should feel mechanical, meaningless. And yet, there's something almost ritualistic about it. Each toad stands vigil in their assigned castle, waiting, not knowing when or if a hero will arrive. They could be there for hours, days, months perhaps. Time moves strangely in video games, after all. And through it all, they wait, they watch. They remain ready to deliver their message and their gratitude when at last someone comes. The Super Mario All-Stars remake adds a small but significant detail to these encounters. When Mario or Luigi approach a mushroom retainer, an animation plays. The toad frees itself from a sack, struggling out of its prison to greet the hero. This suggests that even between your visits, even in the endless waiting, the toads were not resting. They were captured, confined, uncomfortable. And yet, when you arrive, their first instinct is not to complain about their suffering. It's to thank you and inform you of the princess's location. Their own discomfort is secondary to the mission, to the greater good, to the hope that somewhere, sometime, Princess Peach will be found and the kingdom restored. This is where the toads were born. Not as characters, really, but as symbols. Symbols of the innocent imperiled by evil. Symbols of gratitude in the face of disappointment. Symbols of patience that borders on the supernatural. And perhaps most importantly, symbols of those who keep watch in the darkest places, maintaining hope even when all seems lost. They are the ones who remain behind when heroes venture forth, the ones who hold the lights in empty castles, the ones who never stop believing that someone will come. But this was only the beginning. The mushroom retainers were a collective, a species, a population rather than individuals. That would soon change. In 1988, with the American release of Super Mario Bros. 2, one toad would step forward from the masses and become a hero in his own right. No longer just a victim to be saved, or a messenger to deliver bad news. This time, the mushroom person would pick up vegetables, challenge a tyrant, and show the world that those who keep watch can also fight. That the smallest beings can carry the greatest strength. That courage comes in many forms. And so our story evolves from the collective to the particular, from the species to the individual, from the mushroom retainers to Toad. The anatomy of mystery. Before we continue with the hero's journey, we must pause to examine something that has puzzled players for decades, something that might seem trivial at first, but speaks to deeper mysteries about the nature of these mushroom people. The question is simple, even childish, and yet it has sparked debates, inspired artworks, both delightful and disturbing, and prompted Nintendo itself to issue official clarifications. The question is this: is that a head or is it a hat? Look at Toad. Look at any member of his species. The most prominent feature is that large, bulbous mushroom cap, usually white with red spots, though variations exist in blue, yellow, green, and purple. It sits atop a small body with stubby arms and feet, covering what appears to be a face with wide, dark eyes and a cheerful smile. To many observers, especially those familiar with mushroom anatomy, it looks like a hat, a cap, something worn rather than grown. After all, mushroom caps are the parts of fungi that we typically see above ground, removable and separate from the rest of the organism. This interpretation seemed to be confirmed in the late 1980s when the Super Mario Bros. Super Show aired on television. In that animated series, Toad was shown on at least one occasion removing his mushroom top, revealing underneath a small, almost Homer Simpson-like bald head with just 3 sad strands of hair. He used the mushroom cap as a tool, as a parachute, wringing it out when wet like one might wring out a hat. This suggested that the mushroom was indeed a piece of clothing, something separate from the Toad's actual body. And for years, this interpretation persisted. Fan art depicted Toads with various hairstyles hidden under their caps. Discussions raged in forums about what they really looked like beneath the mushroom. Some theorized that the dark eyes we see are actually nostrils, and that their true eyes are hidden under the cap, a horrifying concept that has inspired nightmares and artistic explorations of anatomical horror that I will not describe in detail here. Let it suffice to say that once you imagine Toad removing his cap, once you try to picture what lies beneath, things can become very dark very quickly. But the games themselves told a different story. In Captain Toad, Treasure Tracker, the game over screen shows Captain Toad attempting to pull something from his head, straining and struggling, but nothing comes off. He cannot remove it. In Super Mario Odyssey, Toads are seen wearing actual hats, helmets, and other headgear on top of their mushroom caps, which would be rather redundant if the mushroom itself were a hat. Why would you wear a hat on top of a hat? Unless, of course, the mushroom cap is not a hat at all. The debate might have continued indefinitely, a pleasant mystery for fans to ponder, except that in February of 2018, Nintendo decided to settle the matter once and for all. Yoshiaki Koizumi, the producer of Super Mario Odyssey, appeared in a video on Nintendo's official YouTube channel specifically to answer burning questions about the Mario universe. And when asked directly about Toad's mushroom, he gave a clear, definitive answer. So that, as it turns out, is actually Toad's head, Koizumi said, his voice carrying the weight of revealed truth. I'm going to have to leave it to all of you to figure out exactly how that works out. Maybe there's something inside. That last part. Maybe there's something inside. He says it with a slight laugh, acknowledging the strangeness of what he's just confirmed. That massive mushroom cap is not a hat. It is part of Toad's skull, his head, his body, and inside it, presumably, resides his brain, his consciousness, everything that makes him who he is. The implications are both fascinating and unsettling. This revelation was further supported by Super Mario Bros. Wonder in 2023. In that game, when Toad uses a badge that allows characters to glide using their hats, Mario and Luigi remove their signature red and green caps. But Toad pulls out a completely different, separate hat specifically designed for gliding. He does not and cannot remove his mushroom cap because it is not a cap at all. It is him. And yet, the mystery only deepens with this confirmation. If the mushroom is part of his head, what does that mean for the biology of his species? Real mushrooms, the fruiting bodies of fungi, are temporary structures. They emerge to spread spores and then decay. But Toad's mushroom cap is permanent, growing with him from birth, present throughout his entire life. Some toads in various games are shown with hair growing from beneath their caps, particularly female toads like Toadette with her distinctive pigtails. So there is something under there, some kind of scalp or base from which the mushroom emerges. The shape and size of the cap suggests it houses more than just a small brain. That bulbous form is significant, taking up far more space than a typical head would need. What fills that space? Is it hollow, like a mushroom cap, with gills underneath that we cannot see? Is it solid, dense with specialized tissue that serves purposes we cannot fathom? Are there chambers, pockets of air, reserves of water or nutrients that allow toads to survive in harsh conditions? Koizumi's comment that there might be something inside suggests that even Nintendo doesn't fully understand or hasn't fully revealed the answer. Some fans have theorized that the mushroom cap serves as a kind of enhanced organ, perhaps housing not just the brain, but also advanced sensory structures. This could explain how toads always seem to know what's happening in the kingdom, how they can sense danger approaching, how they're always in the right place at the right time with the right information. The mushroom cap as an organic antenna, constantly receiving signals from the environment around them. Others have suggested that the caps might be connected to the power of the kingdom itself, drawing sustenance from the same mysterious force that makes super mushrooms grant growth and one-up mushrooms grant extra lives. Perhaps every toad is connected to this network of fungal energy that permeates the mushroom kingdom, which would explain their resilience, their ability to survive encounters with Bowser's forces, their capacity to wait in dangerous places without food or water, always ready, always alert, never truly resting. The horror that some fans have imagined, that terrible vision of Toad pulling off his cap to reveal something alien and wrong beneath, stems from a fundamental misunderstanding. The mushroom is not hiding his true self. The mushroom is his true self. To remove it would be to remove him. It would be catastrophic, fatal, unthinkable, like asking a human to remove their skull. And yet, the cartoon showed him doing exactly that, wringing out his cap like a wet hat. How do we reconcile these contradictions? Perhaps we don't. Perhaps the answer is that different versions of Toad exist across different realities. The cartoon Toad, who can remove his cap, who has hair underneath, who treats his mushroom as a tool and nothing more. And the game Toad, who is inseparable from his mushroom, who would no sooner remove it than remove his own head. Both are real. Both are true. Neither negates the other. They simply exist in parallel, like dreams of the same person in different minds. What matters is this. In the games, in the official Nintendo continuity that Koizumi represents, the mushroom is the head. It is part of the body. It is not removable, not temporary, not a costume or disguise. And this raises so many more questions than it answers. Questions about how toads are born, how they grow, how their anatomy functions, how they think and see and sense the world through this strange fungal form. Questions we will continue to explore as we delve deeper into the biology and culture of these mysterious mushroom people. Questions that may never have complete answers, but that make the toads all the more fascinating for their inscrutability. For now, let us simply accept the strange truth. Toad's mushroom head is his head. Inside it, something is happening, something we cannot fully see or understand. And perhaps that's fitting for a people who seem to exist in a state of permanent watchfulness, permanent readiness, permanent presence that defies normal biological limitations. They are not like us. They never were. And their anatomy reflects that fundamental difference. A species without sleep. To understand why the toads might never truly sleep, we must examine their biology more closely. What we know about them comes from decades of observations across countless games, each adding small details to the picture while leaving vast gaps of mystery. We know, for instance, that toads are the dominant species of the mushroom kingdom, comprising approximately 66% of the population. We know they live in numerous towns and cities throughout the kingdom, with their capital, Toad Town, serving as the heart of their civilization. We know they serve Princess Peach loyally, many working as castle attendants, guards, or members of her personal retinue known as the Mushroom Retainers. But what are they? Truly? At their most fundamental level, what does it mean to be a toad? Physically, they are small, typically standing shorter than Mario himself, who is famously not a tall man. They possess stubby arms and legs, though the legs are often so short as to be nearly invisible, their large feet seeming to connect directly to their torsos. Their skin tone varies, but is generally a pale, cream color. They have no visible noses, no external ears, and their eyes are uniformly dark and beady, without visible pupils or irises. These eyes, however, seem to see everything, missing no detail despite their simplicity. The mushroom cap, as we've established, is part of their head, but its size and prominence suggest it serves functions beyond simply housing the brain. In real-world fungi, mushroom caps are reproductive structures designed to spread spores. Whether toad caps serve a similar purpose is unclear, though we know that toads do reproduce somehow, as there are young toads, adult toads, and elderly toads, like Toadsworth with his white mustache and brown spotted cap. The mechanics of their reproduction, however, remain one of the deepest mysteries of the species. Some have theorized, based on the eusocial structure observed in their society, that toads reproduce through a queen or princess figure who bears all offspring, with the worker toads being sterile. This would explain Princess Peach's central importance to the kingdom, and why her kidnapping is always treated as an existential threat. Without her, the species itself might be in danger. However, this theory has problems. We see toads with romantic relationships, toads getting married in games like Super Mario RPG, suggesting that reproduction may be more distributed throughout the population than a eusocial model would allow. Another theory suggests that toads reproduce via spores, as fungi do, with the reproductive process being so different from mammalian reproduction that it's simply never shown in the games. The presence of Toadette, clearly identified as female, suggests gender does exist in their species, though Nintendo has stated that toads were initially designed without specific genders in mind. Perhaps their biological sex, if it exists, is not relevant to their social roles or interactions in the way it is for humans. Perhaps what looks like gender to us is actually something else entirely, some other form of differentiation that we mistake for male and female, because those are the categories we understand. What we can say with more certainty is that toads possess remarkable physical capabilities despite their small size. In Super Mario Bros. 2, Toad was the strongest of the 4 playable characters, able to pluck vegetables from the ground faster than anyone else, and carry heavy objects without slowing down. In New Super Mario Bros. Wii and subsequent games, the playable Toads demonstrate combat prowess equal to Mario and Luigi, using the same power-ups to gain the same abilities. They can throw fireballs, fly with raccoon tails, become invincible with superstars. Whatever magical energy runs through the mushroom kingdom, the toads can channel it as effectively as any hero. They are also remarkably resilient. Despite their fearful nature, their tendency to panic and run in circles when danger approaches, toads survive encounters with Bowser's forces again and again. They are captured, imprisoned, frozen in ice, sealed behind walls, transformed into objects, and yet they always return, always recover, always ready to take up their duties once more. This suggests either exceptional healing abilities or simply that toads are much harder to kill than their small, soft appearance would suggest. Perhaps the mushroom cap, that great mystery, provides some kind of protection or regenerative capability that keeps them going long after other species would falter. But it's their behavior that most strongly suggests something unusual about their sleep patterns. Toads are always where they need to be when they need to be there. Toad houses are always open when you need items. The toad in Peach's castle is always ready to provide information. Shopkeeping. Toads are always behind their counters. Guard toads are always at their posts. Even when you leave a game for months and return, the toads haven't moved. They're still there, still waiting, still ready to help. The one exception, the one toad who challenges this pattern, is Yellow Toad of the Toad Brigade. In Super Mario Galaxy, he's frequently described as lazy and is often found sleeping on the job. But even here, there's something suspicious. His sleep is light. He wakes instantly when Mario approaches. He's never so deeply asleep that he misses what's happening around him. And in later games, particularly Super Mario Odyssey, this same Yellow Toad appears fully alert, working in Crazy Cap stores, going on expeditions, showing no signs of the sleepiness that characterized him earlier. Was he ever truly sleeping at all? Or was he resting, conserving energy while remaining aware, ready to wake at a moment's notice? This kind of vigilant rest is known in biology. Marine mammals like dolphins sleep with only half their brain at a time, allowing them to surface and breathe while resting. Horses sleep standing up, ready to flee from predators at any moment. Perhaps toads have evolved, or been created with, a similar capability. Perhaps their mushroom caps allow for a state of partial consciousness where they can rest without ever being truly unaware, where they can recover their strength while still monitoring their surroundings, still ready to respond to threats or opportunities. This would explain so much. Why you never find toads in beds or sleeping arrangements, despite their houses and homes being fully furnished otherwise. Why they can stand vigil in Bowser's castles for indeterminate periods without food or water. Why they never complain about exhaustion despite the constant state of emergency that seems to define life in the Mushroom Kingdom. They don't sleep as we understand sleep. They rest as mushrooms rest, drawing sustenance from the earth and air, their consciousness dimming but never extinguishing, their awareness narrowing but never ceasing entirely. And this vigilance, this permanent watchfulness, might not be a burden to them. It might simply be their nature. We humans need sleep to process memories, to repair our bodies, to consolidate learning. But what if the toad brain, housed in that great mushroom cap, processes information continuously? What if their bodies repair themselves constantly, as fungi do, regenerating damaged tissue without needing the downtime of sleep? What if their memories are stored differently in the mycelial network that might connect all toads beneath the surface, allowing individual toads to access collective knowledge without needing to personally experience or remember everything? This brings us to one of the more fascinating theories about toad biology, that beneath the Mushroom Kingdom, invisible to surface observers, lies a vast fungal network connecting all toads to each other and to the land itself. In real-world ecology, Mycorrhizal networks allow fungi to connect trees and plants, enabling them to share nutrients and even warnings about threats. If such a network exists in the mushroom kingdom, it would explain how toads always seem to know what's happening elsewhere in the realm, how they can provide hints about distant locations, how they coordinate their efforts despite being scattered across the kingdom, how they maintain their culture and traditions despite having no central government or authority beyond their loyalty to Princess Peach. This network would also explain the super mushrooms that grant size and strength. Perhaps these are not random power-ups scattered throughout the world, but intentional gifts from the fungal network, drawn up and concentrated in specific locations to help heroes on their quests. The one-up mushrooms that grant extra lives might be even more profound manifestations of this power, allowing the network to actually restore life to those it deems worthy. And the toads, being of mushroom kind themselves, would be the gardeners of this network, the tenders of this life-giving system. If this is true, then the toad's constant wakefulness takes on new meaning. They're not just watching the surface world, they're monitoring the network, maintaining the connections, ensuring the flow of energy and information throughout the kingdom remains strong and clear. They are simultaneously individuals and nodes in a larger system, their personal consciousness connected to something greater, something that perhaps never sleeps because it exists across too many points to ever be entirely unconscious. This might also explain their fear, their tendency to panic. If every toad is connected to the network, then when one toad experiences danger, they all feel it to some degree. The pain of one becomes the warning to all. When Bowser attacks, when enemies appear, when Princess Peach is kidnapped, the shock of it ripples through the entire network, triggering that instinctive panic response in every toad. They run in circles, not because they're stupid or helpless, but because they're overwhelmed by shared distress, each one feeling not just their own fear, but echoes of everyone else's fear as well. And yet, despite this fear, they do not abandon their posts. They do not flee the kingdom or hide away in safe places. They remain. They continue their duties. They keep watch. Because if the network connects them, if they are truly one people in a deeper sense than mere species membership, then to abandon one's post would be to abandon one's self. The duty is not external, imposed from outside. It is internal, intrinsic, as natural as breathing, or as natural as not sleeping. The first hero. The year was 1988, and Nintendo faced a problem. The real Super Mario Bros. 2, released in Japan, was deemed too difficult for American audiences. It was more of the same as the first game, just harder, with fewer forgiving mechanics and more demand for precise execution. Nintendo needed a substitute, something that would feel like a Mario game while being different enough to justify its existence. They found their answer in an unlikely place, a game called Doki Doki Panic, originally created for a Japanese cultural event featuring characters from a television promotion. With some strategic character replacements, Mario, Luigi, Princess Toadstool, and Toad became the heroes of this strange new adventure. And for Toad, it changed everything. No longer was he just a victim to be saved, or a helper offering items. Now, he was a protagonist, a hero in his own right. Someone you could choose to control, to guide through danger, to rely upon when the challenges became too great for the Mario Brothers alone. The game opened simply enough. Our four heroes went on a picnic, as one does on pleasant days in the Mushroom Kingdom. But they discovered a cave, as one does when adventuring, and this cave led to another world entirely. The land of Subcon, a dream realm ruled by the evil frog Wart, who had enslaved the native Subconians with his dark magic. The very vegetables that grew in this land had been weaponized, trapped in the ground until freed by heroic hands. And so, our quartet entered this dream, this nightmare, to free the Subconians and defeat the tyrant frog. Each character in Super Mario Bros. 2 had distinct abilities, a revolutionary concept for Mario games at the time. Mario was the balanced choice, good at everything but excelling at nothing. Luigi could jump higher but was slippery to control. Princess Toadstool could float briefly after jumping, making treacherous gaps easier to cross. And Toad? Toad was special in ways that would define his character for decades to come. Toad could not jump well. His leap was the worst of the four characters, short and ungraceful, barely enough to clear small obstacles. In a platforming game, this was a severe disadvantage, but what Toad lacked in jumping ability, he made up for in pure, undeniable strength and speed. When picking vegetables from the ground, Toad was fastest by far, his arms becoming a blur as he yanked produce from the soil when, digging through sand in desert levels, Toad burrowed at incredible speed, finding secrets and shortcuts that others might miss. And most remarkably, Toad could carry heavy objects, enemies he'd picked up, or large vegetables, without slowing down at all. Mario, Luigi, and Toadstool all walked slower when burdened. Toad ran at full speed regardless of his load. This made Toad the strongest choice for speedruns and challenge players. In the hands of a skilled gamer who could compensate for his jumping deficiency, Toad was unstoppable. Fast, powerful, efficient. He turned Subcon's vegetation into weapons with unmatched speed, hurling turnips and beets at enemies before they could even react. He dug to China, or whatever the Subcon equivalent was, while others were still scratching the surface. He carried boss keys and prisoner bubbles with the same ease most people carry a pencil. But beyond the mechanics, beyond the gameplay advantages, this game established something crucial about Toad's character. It showed that beneath the fear, beneath the tendency to panic, beneath the cheerful helpfulness that defined the species, lay real courage and real capability. When the situation demanded it, when people needed saving and evil needed stopping, Toad could step forward and do what needed to be done. He was not a warrior by nature, true. His poor jumping showed that he wasn't built for the acrobatic heroism that Mario and Luigi embodied. But he had his own form of heroism, grounded in strength and speed and relentless determination. The people of Subcon needed help, so Toad helped. It was that simple. No grand speeches, no dramatic transformation. Just a small mushroom person doing what needed to be done because no one else was going to do it. This quiet, practical heroism would become central to how we understand Toad. He's not the chosen one. He's not on a quest for personal glory or revenge or destiny. He's just someone who, when faced with injustice, rolls up his sleeves, metaphorically speaking, since he doesn't wear sleeves, and gets to work. The visual design of Toad in this game is interesting to note. The NES had severe color limitations, only able to display a few colors per sprite. As a result, Toad's mushroom cap in the original version of Super Mario Bros. 2 appeared blue rather than red. This wasn't a design choice so much as a technical necessity, but it created some confusion about his actual appearance. Was Toad's cap supposed to be blue? Was this a different Toad entirely? The ambiguity wouldn't be resolved until the Super Mario All-Stars remake years later, which displayed him with his now familiar red-spotted cap. But that blue-capped sprite has a certain charm, a reminder of the technical limitations that shaped early gaming and the creative ways developers worked around them. The story of Subcon itself is dreamlike in ways that would have lasting implications. At the game's end, it's revealed that the entire adventure was a dream that Mario had after the picnic. He dreamed of the cave, the strange world, the hero's journey, all of it, which raises questions. If it was Mario's dream, does that mean Toad's participation was also dreamed, Or did the real Toad somehow enter Mario's dream, making the adventure real for him even if it was imaginary for Mario? The game doesn't answer these questions, content to let the mystery linger. But regardless of whether Subcon was dream or reality, the experience shaped Toad's identity. After this, he could no longer be seen as just a helpless victim. He had proven himself capable, heroic, strong in ways that mattered. And while he would often return to supporting roles in subsequent games, that core of capability remained. When Wario threatened to take over the woods in Wario's Woods years later, making Toad the sole playable character in a puzzle game where he had to stack and destroy enemies, it felt natural. Of course, Toad would stand up to Wario. Of course, he would defend his home. We'd seen him do it before. The inability to jump well also became part of his character in interesting ways. In later games, particularly Captain Toad, Treasure Tracker, this limitation would become a central gameplay mechanic. Captain Toad cannot jump at all because of his heavy backpack, turning what was a minor disadvantage in Super Mario Bros. 2 into a defining characteristic. It speaks to a kind of honesty in character design. Toads aren't built for jumping. They're built for other things. Strength, speed when it matters, endurance, the ability to dig and burrow and find hidden secrets. These are their gifts, and they use them well. In Subcon, surrounded by strange dream logic and vegetable warfare, Toad proved that you don't need to be the most agile or the most athletic to be a hero. You just need to be willing to face the nightmare, to pick up whatever weapons the land provides, and to keep going until the tyrant falls and the people are free. It's a beautiful lesson, and one that Toad embodied without ever saying a word. Heroes come in all forms, even small mushroom-capped forms that can't jump very high but can carry the weight of the world without slowing down. The helper who never rests. If Super Mario Bros. 2 revealed Toad's potential for heroism, Super Mario Bros. 3 and the games that followed established his true calling. Not as a warrior, but as the eternal helper. The one who keeps the infrastructure of heroism running. The quartermaster, the informant, the supporter who makes the hero's journey possible through countless small acts of assistance and kindness. In Super Mario Bros. 3, Toad operated the Toad houses scattered throughout the Mushroom World. These small buildings appeared on the world map, oases of safety and generosity in a land threatened by the Koopalings. Step inside and you'd find Toad waiting, always waiting, ready to let you choose from 3 treasure chests. Inside these chests, items, mushrooms, fire flowers, super leaves, frog suits, tanuki suits, hammers, power-ups that could make the difference between success and failure in the challenging levels ahead. But there was no payment required, no quest to complete first, no condition beyond simply entering the house. Toad gave freely, trusting that Mario would use these gifts to save the kingdom. And if you visited the same Toad house multiple times, the inventory changed, ensuring you always had options, always had something that might help with the specific challenge you faced. How did Toad know what to stock? How did he acquire these powerful items? Where did he get super leaves and frog suits in the first place? The game never explains, content to let the magic of generosity remain mysterious. Some Toad houses offered different games. Card matching games where you could win extra lives by remembering which cards concealed the same images. Slot machines with scrolling panels of mushrooms, fire flowers, and stars, each combination granting rewards if you could time your button press perfectly. These weren't just random diversions. They were Toad's way of giving you advantages while letting you feel like you'd earned them, like you'd displayed skill rather than just received charity. It was a kindness wrapped in gameplay, generosity disguised as challenge. And always always, Toad was there. You never entered a Toad house to find it empty or locked. You never found a note saying he'd gone to lunch or closed for the day. The Toad houses were always open. Toad always present, always ready to help. Even in the most distant corners of the mushroom world, even in Skyland or Iceland, where conditions would be harsh for a small mushroom person, there he was, smiling, waiting, ready. This pattern continued in Super Mario 64. When Bowser used Peach's castle's power stars to seal the castle's residents behind the walls, Toad was among those trapped, but even sealed away, even limited in his movement and unable to escape, Toad remained helpful. The Toads scattered throughout the castle provided information about how to proceed, where to go, what to do. They gave tips about specific paintings and the worlds they contained. They warned about dangers. They congratulated successes. They were, in essence, living tutorials, guidance systems embedded in the game world itself. The remake, Super Mario 64 DS, added personality to these interactions. The Toads gave character-specific responses to Mario, Luigi, Wario, and Yoshi. They mistook Luigi for Mario in green clothes, a running joke about the Eternal Player 2. They didn't trust Wario, perhaps wisely, given his mercenary nature. They treated Yoshi with the same friendliness they showed everyone else. These small touches suggested that the Toads knew these heroes individually, had relationships with them, weren't just generic NPCs, but actual inhabitants of the castle with their own perspectives and preferences. In Luigi's mansion, while Toad was not the focus, his presence was crucial. He appeared in various rooms of the haunted mansion as a save point, a beacon of normalcy in a house full of ghosts and danger. Think about that for a moment. The mansion was terrifying. Portraits came alive. Ghosts attacked from every corner. The very building seemed malevolent. And yet Toad was there, in that house, waiting in various rooms to help Luigi save his progress. How did Toad get there? How did he navigate the mansion's dangers to position himself in these locations? How did he know Luigi would need save points in those specific rooms? And most importantly, wasn't he terrified? Probably. Toads are famously fearful, but fear didn't stop him from doing what needed to be done. This is a theme we see again and again. Toads panic, yes. They run in circles. They suggest that maybe the kingdom should just panic as an official response during crisis, but they don't actually abandon their duties. They don't flee. They stay at their posts, trembling perhaps, but staying nonetheless. The fear is real. The courage to act despite that fear is also real. Super Mario Sunshine introduced Toadsworth, the elderly Toad with a white mustache and brown spotted cap, who served as Peach's steward. But it also featured a group of Toad attendants, including one specifically identified as Toad in the instruction booklet, who accompanied Mario and Peach to Isle Delfino for vacation. Even on vacation, even when they should have been relaxing, the Toads remained in service mode. They worried about Peach when she was kidnapped. They provided tips about how to play the game, how to use FLUDD, how to navigate the island. And in the ending, it was revealed that the Toads had repaired FLUDD after it broke during the final battle, presenting the fixed device to Mario and Peach. Even in crisis, even after everything had apparently ended, they were working, fixing, helping, never resting. The new Super Mario Bros. Series brought the Toads full circle, making them playable characters again, but keeping their helper identity front and center. Blue Toad and Yellow Toad joined Mario and Luigi as equal partners in multiplayer mode, capable of all the same moves and transformations. They ran Toad houses in single-player mode, providing items just as their predecessor had in Super Mario Bros. 3. They appeared in enemy courses where you had to rescue them from dangerous situations, reinforcing that duality. Toads are both capable heroes and people in need of rescue, both strong and vulnerable, both independent and interconnected with the fate of the kingdom. Through all of these games, a picture emerges of what Toad truly is: infrastructure made flesh. He is the systems that support heroism without being heroic in the traditional sense. He is the save points and item shops and tutorials. He is the friendly face in the nightmare, the constant in chaos, the one who remains when everyone else has fled or fallen. He is, in the most literal sense, always there, always helping, always watching over the heroes who venture into danger. And he never asks for anything in return, never complains about the long hours, never mentions that he's been standing in that toad house for who knows how long, waiting for someone to need items. Never points out that being sealed behind walls, or stationed in haunted mansions, or trapped in distant worlds is actually quite frightening and uncomfortable. He just does the work, smiles, thanks you for your heroism, and waits for the next person who needs help. This is the secret of the toads. This is why they never sleep, because someone always needs help. Someone is always in danger. Princess Peach is always being kidnapped. Bowser is always plotting. Enemies are always invading. The work never ends, so neither do they. They have made themselves into the beating heart of the Mushroom Kingdom, the constant rhythm of support and care that keeps the whole system functioning. Without them, heroes would venture forth without items, without information, without save points or second chances. Without them, the kingdom would fall not to any specific attack, but to simple entropy, the slow collapse that comes when no one maintains the systems that keep society running. Toads are not the heroes of legend, but they are the heroes of everyday life. And perhaps that's the more important kind of heroism, the kind that shows up, the kind that waits, the kind that never stops believing that tomorrow someone will need help and that they'll be there to provide it. Again, and again, and again, forever if necessary, because that's what they do. That's who they are, the eternal helpers, the people who never rest. Captain Toad, the leader, emerges. But there is one Toad who would become more than a helper, one who would step forward not just as support for heroes, but as a hero in his own right, leading expeditions to distant worlds, commanding a small brigade of fellow Toads, and proving that mushroom people could be just as brave and capable as any Mario brother. This Toad would earn a title, a name that distinguished him from his fellows. He would become Captain Toad. The year was 2007, and Super Mario Galaxy redefined what a Mario game could be. Instead of flat plains and simple jumps, Mario now traversed entire galaxies, walking on spherical planetoids where gravity bent in impossible ways. And scattered throughout these galaxies, Mario encountered a group of Toads who had also escaped Bowser's attack on the Mushroom Kingdom. They called themselves the Toad Brigade, and their self-proclaimed leader wore a headlamp on his forehead and carried a large backpack stuffed with supplies. At first, the Toad Brigade captain, as he was known then, seemed like a typical Toad. Cowardly, running from danger at the first sign of trouble. He'd get trapped in chests while looking for power stars, requiring Mario to rescue him. He'd make grand proclamations about exploring dangerous areas only to immediately find excuses why someone else should go first. But beneath the bluster and the fear, something genuine was taking root. This Toad genuinely cared about exploration, about discovery, about finding the treasures scattered across the galaxies. The Brigade built the Starshroom, their spaceship, with help from the Lumas. This vessel allowed them to follow Mario throughout his adventure, providing support and occasionally finding power stars on their own. The captain, despite his fears, never abandoned the mission. never suggested they should go home, leave the galaxies, let someone else handle the crisis. He stayed. His entire brigade stayed, following Mario from world to world, risking their lives because it was the right thing to do, because Princess Peach needed saving, because the universe needed protecting. In the ending of Super Mario Galaxy, after Mario collected all the Power Stars and defeated Bowser, the Toad Brigade received a promotion. They became Royal Guards, with the captain appointed as Royal Guard Commander. It was recognition for their bravery, their loyalty, their willingness to venture into space itself to help save the kingdom. The small mushroom person with the headlamp had become a commander, responsible for Peach's safety. It should have been the end of his story, a happy conclusion to his arc. But commanders, real commanders, don't settle into comfortable positions. They keep exploring. They keep discovering. And so in Super Mario Galaxy 2, we find the Toad Brigade again, and the captain, now more formally called Captain Toad, leads them on new adventures through even stranger galaxies. Interestingly, there's ambiguity in this game about whether it's the same Toad Brigade from the first galaxy or a new group. The captain introduces himself as though he doesn't know Mario, calling himself the new captain, stating he just put on a headlamp and declared himself leader. But whether this is the same Toad with amnesia, a different Toad, or simply a narrative quirk, the character remains consistent. Brave in his own fearful way, dedicated to exploration, always pushing forward despite his limitations. Those limitations would become central in Super Mario 3D World, where Captain Toad appeared in special levels called Captain Toad's Adventures. These were puzzle platformers where you had to guide Captain Toad through dangerous environments to collect stars. The twist: Captain Toad could not jump. His heavy backpack weighed him down too much. This forced players to think differently, to navigate without the most basic tool of any platformer. You had to find paths, rotate the camera to reveal hidden routes, use the environment cleverly to reach heights that jumping would normally handle. These levels were so well received that Nintendo greenlit a full game around the concept. Captain Toad. Treasure Tracker, released in 2014, made Captain Toad the star, the main protagonist, the hero. Not a supporting character, not a helper, the hero. And his adventure, while smaller in scope than Mario's typical world-saving quests, had its own charm and weight. The game's story was simple but effective. Captain Toad and Toadette, now confirmed as his partner and fellow member of the Toad Brigade, were treasure hunting when they found a power star atop a tower. But before they could claim it, a giant bird named Wingo, described as a lover of all things shiny, swooped down and grabbed both the star and Toadette, flying off to his fortress. Now Captain Toad had to journey through numerous worlds, solving puzzles and collecting gems to rescue his friend and reclaim their treasure. The game's structure was brilliant. Each level was a self-contained diorama, a small world unto itself that you could rotate and examine from all angles. Captain Toad couldn't jump, but he could pull turnips, climb ladders, use pickaxes, and think his way through obstacles. The limitation became the point. You weren't playing as someone who could overcome any challenge through pure athleticism. You were playing as someone who had to be clever, observant, patient, someone who had to find another way. And this, more than anything, defined Captain Toad's heroism. He wasn't the strongest, or fastest, or most capable. He couldn't even perform the most basic action of a platformer. But he had determination. He had cleverness. He had loyalty to Toadette that drove him forward despite danger and difficulty. When he finally reached Wingo's tower and defeated the bird, when he saved Toadette, it felt earned in a way that Mario's victories sometimes don't. Because Captain Toad struggled, He didn't have magical power-ups or incredible jumping ability. He just had himself. And it was enough. But the adventure wasn't over. Wingo returned, this time capturing Captain Toad while Toadette escaped. Now she had to journey through her own levels, face her own challenges, rescue him. And then, after she succeeded, Wingo came back again, and both Captain Toad and Toadette had to work together, separately, through parallel adventures to finally end the threat for good. This back and forth, this mutual rescue, established that neither was the damsel or the hero exclusively. They took turns. They supported each other. They were equals in their treasure-hunting partnership. The ending revealed something wonderful. The game was a prequel to Super Mario 3D World. After defeating Wingo, Captain Toad and Toadette landed back in the Mushroom Kingdom just in time to see a green star disappear down a pipe, the very pipe that would start the events of 3D World. Captain Toad tried to grab it, but couldn't reach in time. And so, the cycle continued. One adventure leading to another. One mystery solved, revealing new mysteries. The treasure hunt never truly ending, because that's what drives Captain Toad. Not duty exactly, though he's as loyal as any Toad. Not fear of consequences if he fails, but genuine love of discovery, love of finding things, love of exploration. He can't jump, so he can't be the traditional hero. But he found his own kind of heroism, one that fits who he is. And in doing so, he showed every Toad, every player, every person who ever felt limited by their circumstances that there's more than one way to be brave, more than one kind of strength, more than one path to becoming a leader worth following. Captain Toad doesn't sleep because the next treasure is out there, the next mystery, the next adventure. And while he might get scared, while he might wish sometimes he could just rest, he also knows that rest can wait. Discovery can't. Some treasures are too valuable to leave unfound. Some friends are too important to abandon. Some responsibilities, once accepted, can't be set down just because they're heavy. You carry them, even if it means you can't jump. Even if it means you never stop moving. You carry them because they're yours to carry. And somehow, that makes them lighter. The Brigade. Those who follow. No captain leads alone. Behind every great leader stands a team, a group of individuals who've chosen to follow not out of obligation, but out of belief. For Captain Toad, that team was the Toad Brigade. 5 Toads who would prove themselves to be as dedicated and capable as their leader, each bringing their own unique skills and personalities to the group. And like their captain, they would remain awake, alert, and ready, scattered across galaxies, but united in purpose. The most intellectual member of the Brigade is Hint Toad, easily identified by the glasses he wears over his beady toad eyes. Blue-capped like many Toads, but distinguished by those spectacles, Hint Toad serves as the Brigade's information specialist. In Super Mario Galaxy, he offers Mario hints about where to find power stars, and this role expanded significantly in Super Mario Odyssey, where he appeared in almost every kingdom, ready to reveal the location of an uncollected power moon for a small fee of 50 coins. This raises an interesting question. How does Hint Toad know where the power moons are? He hasn't collected them himself, clearly, or he wouldn't need to tell you where they are. He's just aware, constantly aware, always knowing what's been found and what remains hidden. This suggests either an incredible memory and observational ability, or perhaps that connection to the fungal network we theorized about earlier. Maybe Hint Toad's gift is accessing that network's information more directly than other Toads, seeing the web of connections and understanding where treasures lie based on subtle signals in the environment. His glasses might not be just for show, but actual tools, specialized equipment that helps him see patterns others miss. Then there's Bank Toad, the green toad who first appears in Super Mario Galaxy carrying a pickaxe. He's often found digging or exploring, using that pickaxe to break through obstacles and uncover secrets. But his most important role comes in Super Mario Galaxy 2, where he transforms into the Brigade's banker. He stores star bits for you, keeping them safe and even generating interest on your deposits. The star bits transfer between save files, meaning that Bank Toad's services transcend individual adventures. He's not just holding your currency for one journey. He's maintaining it across separate realities, separate timelines, separate versions of events. This is remarkable when you think about it. Bank Toad isn't just a banker. He's a cosmic accountant, tracking your assets across multiple playthroughs of the same game. How does he manage this? Where does he actually store the star bits? And how do they generate interest? Is there some kind of star bit economy we never see, some system of investment and growth that Bank Toad manages behind the scenes? Or is he simply so good at finding and collecting star bits himself that he can afford to add extra to your balance as a reward for trusting him with your wealth? In later games, Bank Toad appears in various roles. In Super Mario Odyssey, he runs a crazy cap shop location in the Lost Kingdom, selling items and equipment. In Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, he's hidden on a small island near Crisp Climb Castle, and finding him rewards you with a cat shine. Always working, always useful, never resting from whatever task he's assigned himself. Male Toad, purple-capped and cheerful, is the Brigade's communications specialist. In Super Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2, he delivers letters to Mario from Princess Peach and Luigi, keeping the hero connected to those he's trying to save. These aren't just flavor text. The letters from Luigi come with pictures showing where he's stuck and needs rescuing, and finding these locations is necessary for collecting all the game's stars. Male Toad also posts messages to the Wii message board, bridging the gap between the game world and the real world in a small but meaningful way. But Male Toad's role goes beyond simple delivery. He's enthusiastic about his work, singing cheerfully when Mario first finds the Brigade. He has hobbies, notably snorkeling, which he practices frequently and with pride. He has what he claims is a Level 1 Snorkel Toad certification, suggesting there's an entire Toad education system we never see, complete with certification programs for various skills. Where did he get this certification? Who taught him? What other certifications exist? The mysteries multiply. In Purple Coin Levels, Male Toad provides information about whether he saw any coins underwater, again demonstrating that encyclopedic awareness all the Brigade members seem to share. He also tries racing the penguins in Sea Slide Galaxy, but fails to win, showing that Toads aren't always successful, but they always try. Interestingly, Male Toad is the only Toad Brigade member who doesn't appear in Captain Toad, Treasure Tracker, or Super Mario 3D World, plus Bowser's Fury. Perhaps because his role as messenger becomes less relevant in adventures that don't require long-distance communication. Even so, his absence is felt, a reminder that every team member contributes something irreplaceable. And finally, there's Yellow Toad, the one Brigade member who challenges everything we've said about Toads never sleeping. In Super Mario Galaxy, Yellow Toad is famously lazy, often found sleeping or spinning around in circles. Other Brigade members make comments about him behind his back, gentle teasing about his work ethic. And yet, when it matters, when actual danger threatens, Yellow Toad is there alongside everyone else, doing his part. What's fascinating is how this changes over time. In later games, particularly Super Mario Odyssey, Yellow Toad appears fully alert and active. He works in Crazy Cap stores alongside Mail Toad, managing the yellow coin side of the shop. He goes on expeditions to the dark side, appearing near the Odyssey and claiming they're on a big expedition. He wears a safari hat when adventuring, looking every bit the alert explorer. So what happened? Did Yellow Toad overcome his laziness? Did he mature? Or was he never truly lazy at all? Perhaps Yellow Toad represents something important about rest. Not the deep sleep that humans need, but a different state, where the body slows and relaxes, but the mind remains partially aware. He's the one Toad who acknowledges that constant vigilance is exhausting, that sometimes you need to close your eyes and spin in place rather than constantly working. But he's also proof that Toads can bounce back quickly from rest, returning to full alertness when needed. His laziness might actually be a healthy relationship with rest that other Toads lack, and his evolution might be learning that you can be both rested and ready, both lazy and capable, without contradiction. Together, these 5 Toads plus Captain Toad form something special. Not just a team, but a family. They tease each other, yes. They question their captain's decisions sometimes, yes. But they never abandon each other. They never leave anyone behind. When the captain gets stuck in a treasure chest, someone frees him. When danger threatens, they face it together. And when the adventure ends, when they're promoted to Royal Guards, or when they complete their treasure hunting, they celebrate together, their bond unbroken by the trials they've endured. This is what the Toads represent at their best. Not individual heroes, but collective strength. Not someone standing alone against the darkness, but a network of support, each person doing their part, each skill complementing the others. Captain Toad may be the leader, the one with the headlamp cutting through the dark, but the Brigade is the light itself. Together, they show that heroism can be shared, that courage can be contagious, that no one has to face the nightmare alone. And through it all, they stay awake. Hint Toad always observing, always ready with knowledge. Bank Toad always managing, always ensuring resources are available. Mail Toad always delivering, always connecting separated friends. Yellow Toad alternating between rest and action, showing that both have their place. And Captain Toad always leading, always exploring, always hunting the next treasure. They are the vigil embodied, the watchers who never stop watching, the helpers who never stop helping, the people, fundamentally, who never stop being people, who never let the darkness win, who never surrender to despair or exhaustion or the terrible weight of infinite duty. They're just Toads, small mushroom people with oversized caps and beady eyes. But they're also more than that. They're proof that you don't have to be big or strong or fearless to matter. You just have to care, to try, to show up, again and again, no matter how tired you might be, no matter how long the night has been. You show up, you do your part, and somehow, together with others who do the same, you make the impossible possible. The Mushroom Kingdom's structure, a society that never stops. To truly understand why Toads never seem to sleep, we must examine the society they've built, the structures and systems that define life in the Mushroom Kingdom. Because what we see is not chaos or random scattering of individuals, but something organized, something intentional, something that looks very much like a civilization designed from the ground up to maintain constant vigilance and support. At the heart of this civilization is Toad Town, the capital city and the place most densely populated by mushroom people. From Paper Mario, we get our most detailed look at this settlement. It's not just a collection of houses, but a functioning community with shops, a train station, a post office, restaurants, and even entertainment venues where you can gamble coins. Toads run these establishments, providing services to residents and travelers alike. They maintain infrastructure, keeping the trains running on schedule, ensuring mail reaches its destination, stocking shops with necessary goods. But here's what's remarkable. These shops and services are always open. The train runs whenever you need it. The shops never close. The post office always accepts deliveries. There's no day-night cycle that shuts down commerce, no weekends where businesses rest. The services are simply available. As if the toads running them don't need breaks, don't need time away from their duties, don't need the same rest that humans would require after long shifts of labor. The population statistics are equally revealing. According to various sources, toads comprise approximately 66% of the Mushroom Kingdom's inhabitants. That's a significant majority. Koopas make up about 19%, bob-ombs 9%, and various other species like Shy Guys, Yoshis, and humans make up the remaining 6%. This means that the fundamental character of the kingdom, its culture and values and way of life, is predominantly toad culture. And that culture prioritizes service, community, and constant availability above almost everything else. Many toads work directly for Princess Peach as castle attendants, guards, or members of her retinue. The mushroom retainers, those original 7 from Super Mario Bros., may still exist in some form, or the title may have evolved to simply mean toads who serve the princess in official capacities. Either way, the connection between the toad species and the royal family is fundamental. The toads are not merely subjects. They're caretakers, protectors, the foundation upon which the monarchy rests. This loyalty is fascinating because it doesn't seem forced. You never get the sense that toads serve Peach out of fear or legal obligation. They serve because they want to, because they've chosen to make her safety and happiness and the well-being of the kingdom their primary purpose. When Peach is kidnapped, which happens with alarming frequency, the toads don't debate whether to help. They don't weigh costs and benefits. They immediately mobilize to find her, support those searching for her, maintain order in her absence, whatever is needed. But that loyalty is tested by their other dominant trait, their tendency to panic. In Super Mario Galaxy, when Bowser attacks Peach's castle during the Star Festival, many toads begin running around in circles, mindlessly panicking, occasionally tripping and getting up only to resume their circular running. In Mario and Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story, during a conference held by Peach to address the blorbs, a disease causing toads to inflate into immobile spheres, one toad suggests that the entire kingdom should simply panic as their official response. This panic response could be seen as weakness, and indeed, it's often played for humor. But consider it from another angle. The toads panic because they care deeply, because they're aware of the danger, because they feel fear in ways that might be muted in more courageous species. Their fear is a sign of awareness, of understanding the stakes, of recognizing that something terrible is happening. And yet, despite this fear, despite the panic, they don't actually flee. They run in circles, yes, but they run in circles at their posts, at their positions, where they're supposed to be. The panic is genuine, but it doesn't translate to abandonment. Moreover, there are toads who develop tougher natures. The toads of Rogueport in Paper Mario. The Thousand-Year Door are street-smart and sometimes suspicious, shaped by living in a rougher town than peaceful Toad Town. The Toad Brigade represents adventurous toads willing to explore galaxies. Professor Toad from Paper Mario. The Origami King is an archaeologist and scholar who studies ancient civilizations despite the dangers involved. So the species isn't uniformly cowardly or panicky. They're diverse in their courage, just as any species would be. But even the bravest toads tend toward helpful rather than aggressive heroism. They'd rather dig for knowledge or help travelers than fight enemies directly. The Super Smash Bros. Brawl trophy for toads mentions them giving off a strong sense of peace, and that captures something essential. Despite living in a kingdom under constant threat, despite serving a princess who gets kidnapped repeatedly, despite dealing with invasion after invasion from Bowser and his minions, the toads maintain a peaceful, often cheerful demeanor. They're not bitter or jaded. They're not cynical about the endless cycle of crisis. They just keep going, keep helping, keep maintaining the peace they believe in. It's almost aggressive positivity, a refusal to let the darkness change their fundamental nature. The toad houses throughout various games represent this beautifully. These establishments can be found in the most remote locations: mountaintops, deserts, ice worlds, volcanic regions, places where establishing permanent settlement would be difficult or dangerous. And yet, there they are, toads running these houses, stocked with items, ready to help any hero who passes through. How did they get there? How do they acquire stock? How do they survive in such harsh environments? The games never explain, content to present the toad houses as natural features of the landscape. But this is the Mushroom Kingdom's secret. Its infrastructure is living. It's not stone roads and mechanical systems, but a network of people who've made themselves into infrastructure. The toad houses are infrastructure. The toads delivering mail are infrastructure. The toads providing information are infrastructure. They are the roads and the rest stops and the communication network all at once. And living infrastructure never sleeps because it can't sleep. The moment it does, the moment the toads rest, the entire system starts to collapse. This creates a kind of beautiful tragedy. The toads have built a society that depends on their constant wakefulness, their permanent availability, their endless willingness to help. They've made themselves so essential, so necessary, so fundamental to the kingdom's function that they can't stop without everything falling apart. And because they're genuinely kind, genuinely caring, genuinely committed to the greater good, they won't let that happen. They'll keep going, keep watching, keep helping, even if it means they never rest, because someone needs to, and they've accepted that someone is them. This is not slavery or exploitation, at least not in the traditional sense. The toads seem happy. They smile. They express enthusiasm for their work. When Mario succeeds, they celebrate. When danger is averted, they're genuinely joyful. But is that happiness authentic, or is it the contentment of those who've found meaning in sacrifice? The answer might be both. They might genuinely enjoy their roles while also bearing a weight they can never put down. And perhaps that's what nobility truly means. Not power or titles, but the willing acceptance of burden for the good of others, maintained without complaint, without rest, without end. Forever, if necessary, because the kingdom needs them. And they have decided, as a species, that being needed is enough. Endless service. Roles across dimensions. The Toad's commitment to helping doesn't limit itself to the main Super Mario games. Across every spin-off, every side game, every alternate universe where Mario and his friends appear, the Toads manifest in some form, always ready to assist, always available, always present. Examining these appearances reveals just how deeply ingrained the helper role has become in their species' identity, to the point where even when they're given the chance to be something else, to pursue other paths, they choose to help. In the Mario Party series, Toad's role evolved over time but maintained this essential character. In the original Mario Party and Mario Party 2, Toad was the host, the master of ceremonies, who awarded stars to players and explained the rules of mini-games. He wasn't competing, He was facilitating competition, making sure everyone understood how to play, ensuring fairness, providing encouragement. In Mario Party 3, he was replaced as host by Tumble, but continued to appear, running an item shop in competition with Baby Bowser, now called Koopa Kid. By Mario Party 4, Toad returned as host, and the game introduced Toad's Midway Madness, a board themed around his love of carnival games and fun. But in Mario Party 5, something changed. Toad became a playable character, and he's remained playable in every mainline party game since. This could be seen as a promotion, a recognition that Toad deserved to compete alongside the heroes rather than just facilitate their competition. But even as a player character, Toad never loses that helper energy. He celebrates other players' successes. He commiserates with their failures. He's competitive, but never cruel, never gloating. He wants to win, but he also wants everyone to have fun. And somehow, that balance defines every game he hosts or participates in. The Mario Kart series shows a similar pattern. Toad has been a playable racer since Super Mario Kart on the SNES, representing the lightweight class with high acceleration but low top speed. He's quick off the line, nimble around corners, but easily knocked aside by heavier racers. This physical representation in gameplay matches his character, fast to respond, quick to help, but not built to withstand heavy impacts. He's been in every single Mario Kart game since his debut, a constant presence across decades of racing. And he's not alone. Toadette was introduced in Mario Kart. Double Dash as Toad's racing partner, a female Toad with distinctive mushroom-shaped pigtails. She's appeared in most kart games since, and in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, she received a unique ability with the Super Crown power-up that transforms her into Peachette, granting her Peach's floating jump ability. This transformation sparked its own cascade of fan, theories, and creations. But what matters for our purposes is that Toadette, like Toad, commits herself to every challenge. Racing, treasure hunting, adventuring, whatever the situation requires. She's there. She adapts. She persists. The various Mario sports games, from tennis to golf to baseball to soccer, feature Toads prominently. Sometimes as playable characters, sometimes as referees, sometimes as audience members cheering on the competitors. Even in relaxation, even in games and sports that should represent leisure time, the Toads maintain their presence. They're spectators, yes, but active ones, engaged ones, emotionally invested in the outcome. They're not just filling space, they're participating in their own way, their enthusiasm contributing to the energy and excitement of the event. But perhaps the most revealing glimpses of Toad's character come from the RPG series. In Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, the first Mario RPG, Toad appears as both a helpful guide teaching Mario about battle mechanics and as a shopkeeper in Bowser's Keep after it's reclaimed. He ventures with Mario into danger in the beginning, gets kidnapped repeatedly, requiring rescue, and eventually finds his place, providing essential services. It's the classic Toad pattern: try to help directly, end up needing help, ultimately help in the way that matches your actual abilities. Throughout the paper, Mario and Luigi series, Toads appear primarily as NPCs. They run shops, provide information, give side quests, populate towns. In Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door, the entire town of Rogueport is populated by various species, including Toads, who've adapted to the rough town's culture. In Paper Mario, the Origami King, Toads become central to the plot in a painful way. They've been folded, crumpled, transformed into origami by King Ollie's magic. Throughout the game, you must find and restore them, literally unfolding them back into their proper shape. This metaphor is potent. The toads have been bent into forms they're not meant to hold, transformed into something they're not, and they cannot restore themselves. They need outside help, need Mario to find them and fix them. Yet once restored, once returned to their true form, they immediately resume helping. They don't need recovery time. They don't need to process the trauma of being folded into a beetle or crumpled into a ball. They just get back to work, get back to their duties, as if nothing happened. As if their role, their purpose, is so fundamental to their being that being restored to form means being restored to function. In the one game where Toad was the solo protagonist, Wario's Woods, the challenge was different. This was a puzzle game, released in 1994 for NES and SNES, where Toad had to prevent Wario from taking over the woods by stacking and destroying enemies using bombs provided by Wanda the Fairy. It's unique in being the only Mario franchise game with a Toad as the titular and only playable character before Captain Toad. Treasure Tracker came along 2 decades later. What's significant is the setup. Wario was invading. The woods needed protecting. And Toad, small and presumably outmatched, chose to stand up to Wario alone. He didn't call for Mario. He didn't wait for someone more capable. He saw the threat, understood what was at stake, and took action with the tools and allies he had available. The game was about using strategy and cleverness rather than physical strength, playing to Toad's actual abilities. And he succeeded. Wario was defeated, the woods were saved, all by a Toad who refused to let his limitations define what he could accomplish. This pattern repeats everywhere we look. Toads adapt to whatever role their universe requires while maintaining their core identity. Whether it's partying, racing, playing sports, providing RPG services, or standing alone against threats, they do what needs to be done. They fill the gaps. They provide the support. They maintain the infrastructure of normalcy and helpfulness that allows heroes to exist and adventures to happen. And through all of it, they remain available. Always. The party host is there when you start a game. The racer is ready when you select them. The shopkeeper is behind the counter when you enter. The information giver has the knowledge when you ask. They're not sometimes available, occasionally ready, usually prepared. They're always there. Constant as the stars, reliable as sunrise, present in a way that transcends normal expectations of availability because they've made availability their defining trait, their species' power, their gift to the world, the eternal wakeful helpfulness that makes every adventure possible. The mystery deepens. What keeps them awake? We've traced the history of the Toads from their origins as victims to their roles as heroes and helpers. We've examined their biology, their society, their constant presence across every iteration of the Mushroom Kingdom. But we haven't truly answered the central question. Why don't they sleep? What keeps them awake, alert, ready, no matter how much time passes or how many crises they endure? What biological or magical or societal force sustains their eternal vigil? The simplest answer would be that they do sleep, and we just never see it. Games, after all, are selective in what they show. We don't see Mario eating or using the bathroom either, but we assume he must do these things off-screen. By this logic, Toads must sleep at some point. We just happen to encounter them only when they're awake, and they're awake for the relevant parts of the adventure. This is probably the intended reading, the one that doesn't require elaborate theories or speculation. Toads are normal beings who sleep normal amounts, and the game simply doesn't focus on those moments. But that answer is boring. It doesn't account for the patterns we've observed. The fact that Toad houses are always open, shops always staffed, information always available. The fact that in Super Mario Galaxy, the The Toad Brigade follows Mario across galaxies without any indication of rest. The fact that in haunted mansions and dangerous castles and remote locations, toads are always at their posts, never off duty, never unavailable. If they sleep, they do so with such efficiency and such secrecy that no one ever witnesses it or is affected by it, which suggests that if they sleep at all, it's not like human sleep, not like what we understand rest to be. One possibility we've discussed is the concept of vigilant rest, half brain sleep like dolphins experience. The mushroom cap might allow for compartmentalization of consciousness, with part of the brain resting while another part remains alert. This would let toads recover from fatigue while still monitoring their environment, still ready to respond if needed. They wouldn't be fully asleep, but wouldn't be fully awake either. Existing in a state between, a dim awareness that's enough for basic functions, while allowing deeper restoration to occur in the resting portions of their mind. This could explain Yellow Toad's behavior in Super Mario Galaxy. When we see him sleeping, maybe we're seeing a toad who's let more of his consciousness rest than is typical. He's still somewhat aware, still responds when approached, but he's pushed the ratio further toward rest than other toads feel comfortable doing. And the mild teasing from other Brigade members could be because he's violating an unspoken norm. Not because sleep itself is wrong, but because sleeping that deeply, that obviously, suggests a lack of vigilance that makes others uncomfortable. A reminder that if they're not careful, if they let themselves truly rest, something might happen that they'd miss. Someone might need help, and they wouldn't be there to provide it. Another theory involves the fungal network we've speculated about. If all toads are connected through mycelium running beneath the mushroom kingdom, then consciousness itself might be somewhat distributed. Individual toads would have their own awareness, their own thoughts and feelings and memories, but they'd also have access to a collective awareness, a shared stream of sensation and information that flows through the entire network. In this model, a toad never fully sleeps because even when their individual consciousness dims, they're still connected to the network, still receiving signals, still maintaining that baseline awareness that keeps them integrated with the whole. This would make sleep as humans experience it impossible for toads, because to truly sleep, to truly disconnect from awareness, would mean disconnecting from the network. And doing that would be like cutting off a part of yourself, severing connections that are fundamental to your being. It might even be dangerous, like a computer disconnecting from a network it depends on for essential functions. So, toads remain connected always. Their consciousness dimming and brightening with natural rhythms, but never switching off entirely. Never truly sleeping, because true sleep would mean true separation. And separation means vulnerability, both for the individual and the network as a whole. The super mushrooms that grant size and power might also play a role. These iconic items are, after all, mushrooms themselves. Some of the same species as the toads, or at least closely related. When Mario consumes a super mushroom, he grows larger and gains the ability to break bricks and survive an extra hit of damage. What if toads have this power inherently? What if being mushroom people means they're constantly in a low-grade super state, not growing physically, but maintaining enhanced endurance, enhanced recovery, enhanced capacity to remain active without rest? The one-up mushroom, which grants extra lives, suggests even more profound powers. If mushrooms can literally return someone from death, can restore life after it's been extinguished, then maintaining life without sleep seems trivial by comparison. Perhaps toads are drawing continuously on whatever mysterious force powers these life-giving mushrooms. Perhaps they're not fighting sleep so much as living in a state where sleep becomes unnecessary, where the vital energy that normally depletes through activity is being constantly renewed through their connection to the fungal magic of the kingdom. There's also the possibility that the toad's wakefulness is not biological at all, but a choice sustained by sheer will and cultural pressure. They stay awake because they believe they must, because their society has built itself on the assumption that someone is always watching, always helping, always present. And each individual toad, not wanting to be the one who let everyone down, forces themselves to remain alert. They push past exhaustion through determination and guilt and pride, never admitting how tired they actually are, because to admit it would be to admit failure. To acknowledge that the system is unsustainable, that something has to give. This darker interpretation suggests that the toads are slowly burning themselves out, that their cheerfulness hides deep exhaustion, that someday the accumulated weariness will catch up with them, and the entire species will collapse into a sleep from which they might not wake. It frames their helpfulness not as a gift freely given, but as an obligation they can't escape, a trap they've built for themselves out of good intentions and communal expectation. And it makes their smiles tragic, masks hiding the pain of beings who've forgotten how to rest, who've sacrificed their own well-being so completely for others that they no longer know how to reclaim it. But I don't think that's the truth. Or at least, I hope it's not. Because what we see in the toads, again and again, is genuine joy, real enthusiasm, authentic celebration when heroes succeed, and authentic relief when crises are averted. They're not just going through the motions. They're engaged, invested, caring. And while duty can create the appearance of these emotions, it can't sustain them across decades, across hundreds of encounters, across endless crises. Genuine emotion has a quality that performance lacks, and the toad's emotion feels genuine. So perhaps the answer is simpler and more beautiful than any complex theory. Perhaps toads don't sleep because they don't need to, because something fundamental about their biology, their magic, their nature makes sleep unnecessary. They rest in other ways. Through meditation, through connection to the earth and each other, through moments of stillness that restore without rendering them unconscious. They've evolved or been created or chosen to be watchers, and watchers don't sleep. They can't. Because the moment they do, the moment they close their eyes and let consciousness fade, someone might need help, and no one would be there to provide it. And for the toads, that possibility, that chance that someone might call out and hear no answer, that someone might search for help and find only absence, is more terrible than any exhaustion. So they stay awake. They watch. They wait, forever if necessary, because that's what watchers do. That's what helpers do. That's what they are at the deepest level of their being. The people who don't sleep, the people who never stop caring, the eternal vigil maintained not out of obligation but out of love, for the kingdom, for the princess, for each other, for the world they've chosen to protect, one small act of kindness at a time, forever. Conclusion: the gift of eternal watching. And so we return to where we began, to the question of what it means to be a guardian, to be someone who watches rather than wanders, who stays rather than seeks, who gives rather than takes. We've explored the history of Toad and his people across 4 decades of games and adventures. We've examined their biology, their society, their roles across countless stories. We've theorized about mushroom networks and vigilant rest, and the various forces that might sustain their constant presence. And through all of this, one truth has remained constant. The toads are always there. Always there. 2 simple words that carry infinite weight. Because being always there means sacrifice. It means giving up the freedom to leave, to rest, to pursue your own adventures on your own terms. It means accepting that your life will be defined by others' needs, by their crises and quests and emergencies. It means that you will never be the star of the story, never the hero whose name is cheered, never the legend that children aspire to become. You will be the helper, the supporting character, the NPC. And you will do this not for a season or a year or even a lifetime, but forever, or as close to forever as makes no difference. This should sound like a curse, a terrible fate, but somehow, in the Toads, it becomes something beautiful, because they're not bitter about their role. They're not resentful of the heroes who get the glory while they do the unglamorous work of maintenance and support. They celebrate those heroes. They cheer for them genuinely, without irony or jealousy. They find joy in helping, satisfaction in being useful, meaning in the simple fact that someone needed something and they were able to provide it. We live in a world that celebrates protagonists, that teaches us to be the hero of our own story, to pursue our dreams, to never settle for being supporting cast in someone else's narrative. And there's value in that teaching. People should pursue their potential, should refuse to be diminished, should claim agency over their lives. But in emphasizing protagonism, we sometimes forget that stories need more than heroes. They need helpers. They need those who maintain the infrastructure that makes heroism possible. They need those who stay behind when others venture forth, who keep the lights burning in the darkness, who remember what's worth fighting for when everyone else is too busy fighting to remember. The Toads remind us of this. They remind us that there's nobility in helping, that there's courage in staying, that there's strength in the gentle persistence of those who simply refuse to give up no matter how dark things become. They show us that you don't have to be the hero to matter, that sometimes the greatest heroes are those who enable other heroes, who create the conditions where heroism becomes possible, who provide the 1,000 small supports that turn impossible quests into achievable challenges. And yes, they might never sleep. Or they might sleep in ways we don't understand, in forms that don't match our assumptions about what rest should look like. But either way, what matters is that they're there when needed. That you can venture into the Mushroom Kingdom confident that you'll find help, find guidance, find a friendly face, and an encouraging word at your lowest moment. That's the gift the Toads give. Not their wakefulness itself, but what their wakefulness represents. The promise that you're not alone, that someone is watching over you, that even in the darkest castle, the most remote galaxy, the most frightening adventure, someone cares about whether you succeed. Someone is rooting for you. Someone believes in you enough to give you the tools and knowledge you need, expecting nothing in return except perhaps a thank you, and often not even that. This is why children love Toad, why he's remained popular across generations despite rarely being the protagonist, why the sight of that red-spotted mushroom cap and cheerful smile brings comfort to players young and old. Because in a world of challenges and bosses and things trying to hurt you, Toad is safe. Toad is kind. Toad will help. Always. Without condition. Without judgment. Without ever asking why you need help or whether you deserve it. You need help, therefore he helps. It's that simple, that pure, that fundamentally good. And perhaps that's what keeps Toads awake. Not biology or magic or societal obligation, but simple goodness. The kind of goodness that can't rest while someone suffers, that can't look away from need, that can't prioritize its own comfort over others' well-being. It's the goodness that parents show when they wake in the night to comfort children who've had nightmares. The goodness that nurses show working double shifts to care for patients. The goodness that teachers show staying after school to help struggling students. The goodness of anyone who's ever said, "I'll stay up with you," to someone going through a hard time, who's sacrificed their own rest so someone else wouldn't have to face the darkness alone. That kind of goodness doesn't sleep. It can't. Because the moment it does, the moment it says, "Not my problem," or "Someone else will handle it," or "I need to take care of myself first," it stops being that kind of goodness. And the toads, bless them, have made that kind of goodness their species identity. They are the helping people, the watching people, the people who never sleep because someone might need them, and they would rather be tired forever than let anyone down. Is this healthy? Is this sustainable? Should the toads be encouraged to rest, to set boundaries, to protect themselves from burnout? In the real world, yes, absolutely. No one should sacrifice their well-being completely for others. No one should be expected to maintain constant vigilance without support or rest. But the toads aren't real. They're not people we need to worry about or protect. They're symbols, stories, dreams of a world where help is always available, where kindness never fails, where no one has to face their trials completely alone. And in that capacity, as symbols, their sleeplessness is perfect. It's exactly what they need to be. Because we don't need Toad to be realistic. We need him to be there. We need to know that no matter what happens in our games or in our lives, no matter how many times we fail or fall or lose our way, there will be someone ready to help us get back up. Someone who won't judge us for failing. Someone who won't abandon us for not being good enough. Someone who just smiles and says, "Let me help you," and means it completely. That's the secret the toads guard. Not how they stay awake, but why their wakefulness matters. It's a gift they give to everyone who enters their kingdom. The gift of knowing you're not alone. The gift of unconditional support. The gift of eternal watching, maintained not as a burden, but as an expression of love for a world they've chosen to protect. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, as you let consciousness fade in the way that toads apparently never do, perhaps spare a thought for these small mushroom people, for their cheerfulness in the face of endless crisis, for their patience with heroes who fail and fail again before finally succeeding, for their willingness to stand in dangerous places providing services that make survival possible, for their gentle insistence that kindness matters, that helping matters, that even small acts of support can change everything for someone who needs them. The toads may never sleep, but because of them, the rest of us can. We can rest knowing someone is watching. We can close our eyes knowing the world will still be there when we open them. We can let go of vigilance for a while because someone else is maintaining it on our behalf. And when we wake, when we return to the challenges that await us, they'll be there, smiling, ready to help, again, and again, and again, forever. Thank you, Toad. Thank you, Toad Brigade. Thank you, all you mushroom people scattered across the Mushroom Kingdom and beyond. Thank you for never sleeping, for never resting, for never giving up on us no matter how many times we need saving. You're the heartbeat of your world, the constant rhythm that keeps everything else moving. And while you may never be the heroes of legend, you're heroes nonetheless. The kind this world needs most. The kind that just keeps showing up. If you found yourself drifting peacefully through this exploration of sleepless helpers and eternal guardians, consider subscribing to continue these gentle journeys through Nintendo's quietly wondrous worlds. Until next time, rest well. The toads are watching. They always are.